Hello and welcome. We're talking Harry Potter and the Sculptor of Secrets. Maybe I should change. That's not right. It's a bit more appropriate. So the Harry Potter videos I'm going to do, they're going to be in two parts. Obviously part one right now. There's so many films, it's hard to just find all the bits that I made and talk about each part. So I'm really going to do this as like a collective. So this episode is going to be about the Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban. So set the scene. 2001, 24 years ago. Wow. So we made Potter at Leavesden, and Leavesden today is a Warner Brothers owned huge, very modern film studios. And even today, as we speak, they're expanding it, building more stages and more stages. But back then, Leavesden was an old aircraft factory, which was literally falling apart. There'll be boarded up rooms that you couldn't get into, paint peeling off the old bricks, asbestos, dust, cold, no heating. The reason that they built the Harry Potter movies there was because, Leavesden was massive. It wasn't just an aircraft factory, but it had a runway. It had the control tower, which is still there at Leavesden. The runway's gone now. But it was a vast, vast space, and not just indoors, but you had an outdoor fields that were running parallel to the runway. So you could build huge outdoor sets. It was very, very convenient, but today it's unrecognizable. So when I first started Chamber of Secrets, I had no clue of what I was getting into. I'd never read the books. I didn't know the lore. I hadn't seen the first film because it hadn't been released yet. It was still in the edit. So I went into this blind. What I did know is it was going to be one film after another. And you could feel the momentum building. Everyone knew this was the Hogwarts Express money train. If you can keep on these films back to back to back to back, there's a good 8 years continuous work. And everyone had their fingers crossed that these films were really going to take off, because that would set a lot of us up for a long time. Now, I was working under a very talented sculptor called Andy Holder. Unfortunately, he has passed away now, sadly. But it was my first time working for him. I'd met him before. I grew up knowing him. He's a good friend of my father's. But one thing Andy gave me was confidence, because he had confidence in me. He had this very calm, chilled manner about him. So if you'd give me a big job, which I hadn't done before on that scale, he definitely made me feel like I was able to take on the job and succeed. So on Chamber of Secrets, I had two big sets to build. First one was the Whomping Willow. Now you get the flying car comes along, crashes into the willow tree. The willow tree moves around, tries to smack the car, and it falls down at the base of the tree. So we built that. Actually, that wasn't Leavesden. We built that at Leavesden Studios. So we built the main tree out of poly. Some of the limbs moved, so people offset could push them. And then we built the mound and everything else, and then it was just green screen all the way around it. And then the second big set, this was the big one, was in the flight shed. So at the very end of the runway, there was where they would store airplanes. We built the part of the dark forest in there, and we built Spider's Hollow. So I did all of the trunks and the trees, all that mounded shaped earth. That's polystyrene with plaster and earth thrown all over it. And that was a cool set. It looked great. They put the gigantic mechanical spider in there. Andy had made a art department model of a set called Hogsmeade and said, right, Joel, you make all the snowdrifts to fit this set. I'm just going to leave you to it. Okay. And that's what I did. I did it for 2.5 months of making snowdrifts. All the stuff off the roofs, all the way around the shops and the Hogsmeade set. Now, Hogsmeade is a village in the Harry Potter world. So there's the pub there and all the little shops. It's really almost a bit of an extension from Diagon Alley, really. But the whole set's covered in snow. I'd completed that. So I went to see Andy, and Andy, it's done, finally. He said, right, Joel, you've got to pick 10 sculptors and you're going to be charge hand supervisor to do the install of everything you've made on the built set at Shepperton. So I see, what? He said, look, you're going to be charge hand supervisor. Now, I'd never been in charge of anyone in my life. My mind was, I'm in charge? All you, mate, all you. Now, quietly I was crapping myself. But on the other hand, I was very excited. And he said, look, do you know 10 sculptors in your phone that you can ring up and get some assistants and some seniors? And then you'll be supervising a lot down at Shepperton. Like, yeah. So the first person I ring on my phone is my dad. I knew he wasn't working. And this was the first and only time, where I was in charge of my dad. How the tables had turned. Now I was the master. At least that's what I thought in my head. But it was great. So I was now in charge. It was very high pressure. The set build time at Shepperton, by the time I got there, all the buildings and the stuff were basically built. Construction painters, set decks, special effects for all the footprints in the floor and everything. You had set dressers, lighting crew, riggers, carpenters. Everyone was working on top of each other. And we didn't have much time to do the install. So there was overtime every day. We were doing 6 days a week. I was supervising that, but we were also building the Whomping Willow set next door. Again, the second time I'm doing a Whomping Willow. So that was going on next door. This was my moment to prove myself, 100%. This was a pivotal moment in my career, was the Hogsmeade set. The designer on Harry Potter was an incredibly nice man called Stuart Craig. Stuart, he's an Oscar-winning designer. He did The English Patient. He was the sort of guy where he was so nice and would ask your opinion, even though he didn't have to ask your opinion. A lot of designers that I've worked for and art directors just say, that's what I want, get on with it. No, that's not right. That's right. Blah, blah, blah. Orders, orders, orders. Stuart wasn't like that. Stuart would ask you, what do you think? I want it looking like this. I want these doorways with this snow looks like it's shoveled out. How are we going to get that technique? I know you've carved them in all nice and smooth, but I want the shop, entrances looking like they've been shoveled. Okay, how are you going to do that, Joel? Well, Stuart, I think we get a hot one, we'll drop it in, we'll scoop it out, and we can rough it and burn it, and then okay, make it so. And he'll go away and with his entourage, and you'd go away, and he comes back. Love it, great, do it. You felt like you had some input, and that's what was so great about Stuart. You just want to please him. You just want to do a good job for Stuart. I was working on the Whomping Willow sitting next door. Someone did, Stuart's here. He wants to see you. I'll go, what? Yeah, he wants to see you now. Okay, and put my tools down. Off to the stage next door. Hi, Stuart. Everything all right? Joe, you've done a fantastic job in a very short time. I just want to commend you on your work and thank you personally. All the supervising art directors and all the people around, all the HODs of the other departments were there. I was like, welcome, Stuart. Oh, God. It was a magical experience. So the next big set was the Whomping Willow. That was a huge set that was right next door to Hogsmeade at Shepperton. The whole set was on a giant slope. I made all the rocks, which I've got all the images for here. I carved the tree with a sculptor called Keith Shaw, who's another one who's passed away. Keith I'd worked for on both the Mummy movies. So many jobs I've done with Keith. So we carved out the tree. I did the inside because Ron gets pulled in by the werewolf character, gets pulled down into a tunnel through the root system of the Whomping Willow. So actually at the front of the set, because it came down on a slope and then there was like a ridge, you could pull the front of the root system out of the Whomping Willow so the cameraman could film the inside of them coming down. And then with Brian, I did these sort of monolithic stones, I'd say. It's like these shaped stones, very Stonehenge kind of vibes, right next to Hagrid's house, which actually got repeated. They used some of those bits throughout the film, actually, which they do often. So remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts about the new series coming? I have to say, I know a lot of people working on that series, and it ain't good.